Now for the life-changing experience. Trimming is, some people, I haven't met too many people that don't like it. Some people get frustrated by doing it, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty fun. So here's my bowl. I have babysat these. If you were, if I were you, I would come in the morning, check your pots, make sure, see if they're dry enough, uncover them if you bagged them. What I like to do is if I'm going to come in tomorrow, so it didn't work on Friday, if I'm going to come in the next day, just a sheet of paper over fresh clay, and usually you come back the next day and it's just about perfect. I would check in the morning though. So when you have the clay that's the perfect consistency, not just the top, but also the bottom. The bottom's where you're going to be doing all the work. You have to get this pot centered. And there are a few different ways to do this. One way that is the best way is to tap it on center. And this looks really easy. Done. So it's over, right? Everybody can just come sit down and do this and tap it on center. It took me probably a year to learn how to do that. I think I have a little bit better way of teaching you how to do it. I've seen people learn how to do this in a class period. This is how my teacher explained it. She said, and this was in college, she said and this is how she was taught, she said you put your finger here, you hold it steady, when the pot touches your finger, you hit it on the side. Her theory is that by the time we see it touch here, it's already rotated to our right hand, and then we hit it. That's not exact enough for me, because your wheel could be going faster, it could have come around twice. It never really worked for me. And so how I best describe this is that you go by rhythm. And so I used to tell people this and they didn't believe me. And finally I'm like, fine, I can do it with my eyes closed from just touching it. And so if you just watch it, your eyes are going to be too slow. Musicians, dancers are quite good at this because they can count it. And so if your wheel's going at the same speed all the time, they can count the rhythm and it comes around at the same time every time. And so if you're counting it, you can count the rhythm and hit it in rhythm. I can just kind of put my hand on the pot and feel it, and I know when to hit it. I don't do it with my eyes. Now you want to see me do it with my eyes closed, I bet. Not right now. Another way to do this is to take a needle tool or a trimming tool. You hold the tool steady, and it nicks the pot on one side. Then you stop the wheel. You find the center of the mark, and you push it into the middle. And then you spin it again. You smooth out the mark. You hold the tool steady. You put a mark in the pot. You push in the middle of the mark to get the pot in the center. There are also rings on these wheel heads. Some people will just look at their pot and try to get it into the center of the rings. The difficulty in doing it that way is that the top of your pot is not always the same center or the same circle as the bottom of your pot. And so sometimes if you get the lip right, the foot is off. So what I recommend is that you try to learn to do it my way. And people that try can usually get it pretty quick. I would say within 2 class periods, most of you will get it. Some people will just go right to the needle tool right away. That's fine. Do it that way. I will come and help you for your first couple pots. If you try this for 10 minutes and you can't get it, call me over, I'll help you. A great thing to do is to practice on something that isn't your pot and something that is round. I've seen, and it'll happen to somebody in here, your wheel will be spinning, it'll probably be spinning too fast, you'll hit the pot, it'll go flying off, it will hit the splash pan, and it will get kicked up and it'll spin and then it'll flap in the air and it'll be in about 10 pieces. It will happen to probably more than one person in here. It's okay. It just first try. It happened to me. Poor Tyler Berg. He was a really good sport about it, but I hit his pot. I was trying to help him out, and it happens to the best of us. The only thing I can help you to avoid that is this. Number one, practice on something that isn't going to break. So you take this. I can hold it. This is really light. It's much lighter than my pot, so I can keep my finger in the middle. I count the rhythm, and I tap this in the center. Practice on some plastic first. If you don't put your finger in the middle, it's going to go flying off. It's too light. Practice on that first. Second thing I can do to prevent your pot from breaking, you keep your left hand right next to the pot, so should it go flying, you can catch it. Or you can stop your wheel really quick. Okay. Moving on, that's called tapping your pot on center. And you must do this in order to get your foot ring in the middle of your bowl. So I'm going to take some lugs. This clay does not need to be wedged. I'm just going to take some lugs. Some people like to do 3. I like to do 4. I like to hold. Some people will say, oh, just do them at the same time. I like to hold my pot and then press down. This will happen to somebody. You'll just take the lug and you push it on your pot, and your pot will go sliding. You spent 15 minutes centering your pot, and then you just press this down and your whole pot shifts. Oh, the tears. Mr. Osmond, can you just center it for me? No, it's good practice. It's good practice. So I lug this down. Sorry about my sniffles. My son just gets me sick all the time. He's so cute, though. I can't get mad at him for it. He just started walking. So cute. So here's the trimming tool. We have 2 trimming tools. There's a few different ones that look like this. These are called ribbon tools. It looks like a little ribbon at the end. This one I use for the inside of the bowl. This one I use for the outside of the bowl. Some people will do it a little bit differently. There's no right or wrong, but this is the way I teach you how to do it. And so you can use either end. Doesn't matter. The first thing you got to know is how to hold the tool. This tool I hold like a pencil. This one I do not. This one I put in the palm of my hand like this because there's so much pull on this tool. If you're not white knuckling it, it's going to go flying. So my left hand presses down in the center of the pot so it doesn't pop up. This hand is going to start carving. If you're carving too flat, it's not going to carve. If your tool's turned like this, it's not going to carve. About a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to decide the diameter of the foot ring I want to make. I think something like right about here would look good. If I go too narrow, it's going to be too tippy. If I go too wide, it's going to look kind of like a heavy lunker type pot. So I'm going to go for that diameter right there. I hold down the center of the pot. With my middle finger, my index finger is going to hold the tool back, and this tool kind of pushes forward. So there's a lot of tension on this tool. The metal's actually bending a little bit. And I start carving to the mark I made. If your clay is the right consistency, you will get really long trimming pieces like this. If it's too wet, it'll start to stick to itself and it will roll. If it's too dry, you'll see like a dust cloud coming off of your pot. That's not ideal. So you take this, and so right now I've got the ring, and so I got to turn the tool different directions to get what I want. And I'm going to try to have this pot, the foot of this pot, stick straight up a little bit. So I have to come in here from the side and cut that away. So that's all the further in I want to go. Now I have this sort of awkward ledge here, and I'm going to trim that awkward ledge into the curve of the bowl. So now I'm going to turn the tool the other way, and I'm going to take this. I'm still pressing down. My thumb is on the tool. And if you want to come over here to the other side, you can stand up and walk over. If anybody over here wants to see the other side, you can. Or you can stand up. I'm pressing down on the tool, and I'm going to line this up with the wall of the pot. So it's a nice, smooth transition. Oh, thank you. Thank you. See, a nice, smooth, continuous curve. Next thing I get to do, I can make some choices, some creative choices about this foot. I could try to undercut it. I could take the tool and push it underneath the foot a little bit. I like to do that a lot on my own. Done with that one. Please don't leave these in your water buckets. One thing I'm no woodsman, but I know this is wood and this is metal, and to get wood to stick to metal, there has to be some glue in there. And what happens is when you leave your tool in the bucket to the glue, what do you think?
The wood would corrode.
Well, the wood corrodes, the glue gets soft, and these heads come off, and then we're down like an $8 trimming tool. So please don't leave those in the water bucket. It just kills my poor heart to see those in there. I'm gonna just smooth off the bottom of this. And then this tool I'm gonna use more like a pencil. And I use the corner of the pencil. I don't put it flat. I use the corner. And so what happens a lot to people's feet is that they start trimming out and out and out and out and out. And then all of a sudden they either have like a razor foot ring or they have no foot ring. And so what I like to do is I like to go to the furthest edge I'm going to carve to. So I find the diameter, so I'm going to say I'm going to trim from there to there. I start here and I work my way in. Too often I see people start at the middle and then they just keep going, and then they just have a round ball and it just rolls around on the table. So you start on the edge and you move in. We're not trying to make a top. So you move in. So I hold this, I start with the corner, I get serious, my elbows are down, I'm not going to rip this foot off here. So I start at the widest part that I want to go to, and then I start moving in towards the center. Everybody's going to get blinded by the, sorry Callie, the shine on my head. I used to have thick, luscious hair. So I'm holding the tool really tight. My knuckles are wide. I'm going to have a groove in my finger from holding this tool so tight. And last couple things you can do. You can take a sponge, smooth this stuff out, smooth it out with your fingers or a rib. Get rid of all those sharp, remember the crazy eights from the cylinders? Well, you can just do it right here now with the sponge and your fingers and round that out. Last little couple pieces of advice. These bowls tend to be a little bit squishy after you do this to them. And so I've seen a lot of people pick it up by the foot and smash their foot. I've seen people pick it up from the side and collapse their bowl in half. It works pretty well for me. If you take the bat off, flip it like that, and then you can look at the pot.